Hey y'all, welcome back to Weekly Hyperfixations. If you're new here, I'm Riot. So the past couple of weeks, basically, we've had what felt to me personally like a tiny hiatus, if you will. This is because we were changing the format of when I record and when editing occurs from my editor, because I wanted to be able to give my editor a more flexible schedule. So normally this day that I'm recording would have been an upload day, but because we wanted to have a schedule in which I film, and then the next week, the entire next week is available for my editor to find time to edit wherever in that week. We needed to be able to implement that at some point. And I figured, you know what, let's just do it right away. So that's what's happening. I think also that changing the upload date to be a week after filming is a little bit friendlier to the original premise of Weekly Hyperfixations, which is less about informing y'all of things and more about things I am fixating on. This week, this episode is kind of a little bit of both, because simultaneously I'm filming on what would have been the same week that an upload would have happened. So the same amount of time has passed for me at the moment. But for y'all, it'll be a little bit longer. So this episode is kind of covering the week I was away on vacation, which was an off week in terms of upload, and a little bit of this week. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm excited for this fresh chapter with y'all. So let's go ahead and touch upon things that are a little bit older in occurrence, for the sake of the old format. Something I completely blanked on mentioning, I think the past 2 episodes, was about Sony eliminating physical discs and like shutting down production plants that produce discs and stuff like that. Even my editor is like, you wrote down that you were going to talk about it and then you didn't. And I'm like, I don't know how I did that. I'll be so real with y'all. I don't know how I did that. But I think part of me was just so pissed off about it that I needed a bit to like chill on it. It's absolutely terrible though. Actually, most recently, Hideo Kojima put out a statement about, you know, his thoughts on that. And he thinks that it's really sad that they're getting rid of physical discs, and then it's kind of frightening to him that it's a streaming only thing, because you don't get to possess like the data of your own save file or anything, or any of your stuff yourself, which alarmed him. And he has made many a great game. So I'm hoping that because more game creators that are very popular are starting to speak out against the issue, that it might tilt Sony's hand away from that. But I highly doubt it. They seem pretty stubborn about it. So I wanted to touch upon that in particular, because despite my brain thinking about it a lot and talking about it a lot for like the past 3-4 weeks, I keep forgetting to mention it here. So another thing that happened while I was away, the Tumblr Sexy Man contest finished. Mr. Antenna won. Thank you, Toby Fox, for your contributions to the Tumblr Sexy Men, because it's a lot of them. Consistent wins, actually. But I wanted to touch upon that because I did talk about that last time. I'm double checking my list of things to make sure I didn't miss anything else that was older to talk about. And it looks like I'm good. So, there are a lot of things I could have touched upon about San Diego Comic-Con. And I will touch upon like 3 things that happened. 2 of which are Marvel, which is like, okay. Tells you how I feel about it. One thing, and I'm looking for the quote here so I don't completely miff it. Why am I having such a hard time? There it is. I just wanted to highlight that there was a panel that Guillermo del Toro was on, and he said that about a project he's working on, that there's absolutely no goddamn AI. Literally, the quote is absolutely no goddamn AI. It's much more expensive. I don't care. What we're protecting is the beauty and the redeeming power of art. That's my goat right there. I heavily agree with all that he said, because protecting the power of, you know, human-made art is like a big issue now. So, big kudos to him on that. My reaction to reading the next bullet point. They announced for Marvel Ghost Rider. And how they announced that, you may ask. They had the logo up on the screen. It was blacked out. Man walks on stage, lights come up, it's Ryan Gosling. And I went, well, okay, yeah, I suppose so. I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take another Ryan Gosling movie. However, I'm afeared that they are casting him back into the asshole category when clearly people like it a lot more when he's more of a silly, goofy guy. So I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure he will do his goddamn job because he's really good at his job. But mixed feelings about that personally. I'm assuming it's gonna be Johnny in terms of like which Ghost Rider, but that's mostly because I look at Ryan Gosling and I go, I could believe that's a guy named Johnny. So, but we'll see. There's only really one other Ghost Rider it could be, and I can't remember his fucking name. But that announcement went through, and then the other Marvel announcement that I actually care a lot more about is that they announced who will be taking the mantle as Prince T'Challa for the next Black Panther movie, and that is David Johnson. I don't think I've seen anything that he's in, but just excuse me, like how he spoke, and of course how like the director and stuff spoke at the panel, I can tell that this man is very serious about honoring the mantle that previously belonged to Chadwick Boseman, and I at least can tell that they are doing their best to honor that and to not mess that up. So yeah, I've definitely got more hopes for that than most other things Marvel talked about at San Diego Comic-Con. So there, oh my gosh, so many things. This happened like yesterday for me. So, you know, for y'all, the previous Thursday, Hank Green made a tweet talking about how he started on occasion consulting AI. Guys, we lost a great mind right then and there. And in fact, he expressed that there was a dopamine hit from using it, and that's terrifying. because that means that it was like addictive to him. Obviously, he has since taken this tweet down and has put out kind of a statement on like what he'll do moving forward. But very disappointing regardless. Because also his brother is very not with AI, so it's really weird to see one brother, for lack of better terms, bowing his head to it even momentarily, when the other is so adamantly against. So because of ethical and environmental impacts, of course. So that's crazy, actually. He did put a statement out regarding his future regarding that, but regardless, I feel like because we can't know everything about a person, there's not really room to trust the guy with what he says anymore. Also, a lot of people pointed out that that makes sense to them because he has put out a couple of videos in which there was a lot of misinformation, especially on things like HRT, hormone replacement therapy, which is weird to see him have misinformation in his videos when his career is built on videos that have accurate information. So now learning that he consulted AI at any point in time makes things like that make a lot of sense. So, what else do we got here? Oh, AI companies have been scanning books and in the process of doing so destroying them, even though there is a machine that, you know, by now video proof of that machine existing is all over the internet. But critically, they told a judge supposedly that they were not going to destroy the books, but then in an actual legal document it says that Anthropic purchased millions of print copies to build a research library, and excuse me, it destroyed each print copy while replacing it with a digital copy for use in its library, not for sharing nor sale outside the company. And that's from the legal document, which I'm sure my lovely editor will have put up. But that's from like an actual legal document regarding what has happened. So within that same sentence that it says that the company destroyed each print copy, it also said that they were not redistributing that copy for any reason. So the information was dying within the company. And this is quite literally how Fahrenheit 451 starts. Because they say first they burned the books. Sure, you may think, oh, but they're digitizing them, so technically it's not lost. However, when the only thing that exists is a digitized copy and the government decides I'm going to change what it says, suddenly there are no originals that have the original text anymore. So you can see the problem. Oh my gosh, hold on. I'm gonna pause and get some water. Okay, let's get back to it. So anyways, you can tell that pisses me the fuck off. Because that's literally making it impossible for the public to know the true contents of those books because you've destroyed them. Literally videos of them cutting the spines off to scan the pages. And then what else do you think you do with them than burn them? What else are they gonna do? You know what I mean? Anyways, most of the other stuff I have is silly goofy, so that's good. There were some Pokemon leaks for behind the scenes footage from way back in the aughts when the Pokemon Company was making Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, so the Sinnoh region, and there was a lot of old Pokemon concept art released. Now, an interesting thing that people have noticed immediately with the images of these like beta sprites for Pokemon, you know, these unused sprites and evolutions and stuff, this unused art, is that some of them are Pokemon that we have eventually gotten. Excuse me, one in particular is one of the 4, I can't remember what they're called, but it's one of the 4 Pokemon, the 4 legendary Pokemon that are really, really hard to catch in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It's Chenpao. Chenpao very clearly was designed back when the Sinnoh region was being made, and they scrapped it and then ended up using it later on. The resemblance between the original, what is it called? The original character concept and the finished product from today is uncanny. Like, it's very clearly the same thing. So that has also defeated a lot of people's arguments about, oh, Pokemon designs have gotten worse over the years. Well, that can't be true if you can't guarantee that all of these new Pokemon designs are actually new, because they're not. Some of them are very old designs that are just now being implemented. So I thought that was very funny. And you know, if you've been here with me for Weekly Hyperfixations a while, you know that I am big on Pokemon, and I know a lot about Pokemon, as long as it's not competitive stuff, really. So I find this fact absolutely wonderful, because I absolutely will be using that little nugget of knowledge in conversation about Pokemon. Absolutely, I will. Let's see here. Oh, there was this beautiful game that got released, and I'm so sad I didn't hear about it before it came out. But it's this beautiful game called Scarlet Deer Inn. And it's gorgeous. And in light of, you know, all of this encroaching AI, I'm delighted to tell you that all of the character sprites and character animations and stuff are embroidery. Not a joke. They are physical embroidery. I've seen images from one of the developers, presumably one of the people who owns one of the embroidery machines, share a picture of how many sprites they could fit on a single loom, is what the term is, I believe, when you're using the automated embroidery machine. So they design the embroidery digitally, sorry, and then the machine spits it out onto the fabric. Which is the only way they could have done this genuinely without this taking decades, basically. But even then, it still takes a long time. But to see something that is physical art be put in a video game in this day and age is so awe-inspiring. It is beautiful. So I wanted to share that with y'all because I just found out about it. And I thought that was gorgeous. It's also, I believe it's like a 2D adventure with platforming and stuff. Kind of like, I guess a little bit like a Metroidvania. I'm not too familiar with the full contents of the game, but that's kind of like the screen and movement layout, I guess, for lack of better terms. Looks like that. Another silly, goofy thing that happened is there's this game called Road to Empress 2, I believe. And for some reason, the streamer Ludwig was in it. And man, blonde wig was a choice. But, you know, pronunciation, I assume good, because, you know, you had to be able to be in that game. But I thought that was a very interesting thing to have happen. just in general. Not where I would expect a big streamer to take a game cameo like that. You know what I mean? Let's see, what else do we got here? Ugh. A trailer for a movie came out. It's certainly something. It's got a Skarsgård in it. It's called Wicker. Didn't think I was gonna be watching a movie trailer where a middle-aged woman gets railed by a man made out of basket. But here we are. I'm really hoping it ends up being like a little bit of horror. Like, you know, my guess is that they're gonna burn the man alive because he's made out of wicker basket material or something like that. Or maybe because clearly it's some sort of magic that brought him to life. Maybe that's gonna be the issue. I just really hope there's an issue. I really hope it gets a little spooky, creepy, scary, or maybe some body horror. If she like somehow has a kid, maybe. But I think it's really funny that they were like, what do we do for the trailer? This will get them in. Them breaking the bed and having to remake the bed, make the bed frame again. Yeah, that's gonna get them in. And they're right. They are quite frankly, they are correct. But I really hope it ends up being a horror movie of some kind. Because that would be so cool. Am I going to see it? If it's a horror movie, I will. Because there's not a lot of horror movies that I can do. Because I have a really bad time with jump scares. So like, you know, Iron Lung was fine. The Babadook only has like 1 or 2. That's fine. The newer Invisible Man, that's fine. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that's fine. That might be more of a thriller, but I really hope this movie gets scary, because if it's scary, I'll go see it. I'm willing to sit through everything else if it's scary, or even just real freaky body horror. Yes, please. That'd be cool. If it's just a romance, I'm way less interested in it. And that's the tweet on that. Crazy work, by the way, that trailer. Holy shit, dude. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the pyramid. If any of y'all are new here, I kind of do like a Abby Lee Miller Dance Moms kind of pyramid of, usually it'll be like characters or people that held the most relevance in my mind this week. Sometimes I will rearrange the order if I think someone's if it's like, you know, I really fixated on this character, but this real life person did something very good. I'm obviously gonna highlight that a little more. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and I of course list these from the bottom of the pyramid to the top of the pyramid. There are 6 spots. First up on the pyramid this week, and less about the recent cast announcement, is Ryan Gosling. Mostly because there are, you know, multiple good movies, first of all, with Ryan Gosling in them, but also it's so funny to me that it feels like it took them a long time to find a new typecast to put him in. You know what I mean? A lot of his earlier movies, he's kind of a dick, or he's kind of a brick wall to talk to, or, you know, things like that. So the Barbie movie and Project Hail Mary were very different for him. And of course, I don't know what his character in the Star Wars thing he's going to be in is like, and that's done filming. But Ghost Rider's a little easier to define ahead of time. I think it's interesting that they're like, well, I know he's doing all these things where he's kind of a silly, goofy guy and way more lighthearted. Let's put him back in his original seat. Actually, what about that? What if we move the seating arrangement again so it's like it was at the beginning? Interesting choice. But I think he's doing a great job. So, and he just seems like a chill dude. just all around chill dude. So that's why he's on the pyramid. Next up on the pyramid, and I did not talk about this previously, but I will talk about it now. The creature of Jimothy, that little raccoon with a spine deformity, is very cute, and I like him a lot. And I think I need you to know, as someone who has lived in the Seattle area before, I had a surge of remembering that I come from that area. Like, I grew up in that area when I was like, oh, where is this Jimothy? And it said, oh, he was first spotted in Ballard. And my brain went, yeah. Hello? I'm not there anymore. Why does that still, yeah. What does that mean? Anyway, but I wanted to put that little guy on here because it was basically impossible not to think about him even a little bit. But he's a delight, honestly. I'm also glad that he's getting a little more spotlight on the internet, because that means more people will know about his existence, which means that, and because we know what area he's in, I'm hoping that means he's way less likely to like get run over or something like that. Just by virtue of people recognizing something popular. You know what I mean? Because, you know, it's hard to know whether or not the animal's in pain, and it's hard not to know, like, how he's doing, really. So I'm glad that his internet relevance may mean that as an animal, he gets a slightly longer lifespan than his deformity would have originally put him at a deficit for. Does that make sense at all? I hope it does. But I just wanted to put Jimothy on the pyramid so that I remembered to mention him. And I do think he deserves a spot on the pyramid because he's a little guy. Next up on the pyramid, and this guy is on the pyramid so much, and I think it's so funny. But next up on the pyramid is Baby No Money. Not because of his new song. It's actually because of his cosplay of the canceled Love and Deep Space character Valko. Normally, I'd kind of be like, oh, that's whatever. But people in the Love and Deep Space community were like, hey, if you do cosplay him, can you make sure to like use the correct hashtags, and like there's a petition. And he was very upfront about listening to the community on that. And it's a community that he's, you know, technically not a part of. He's just visiting, shall we say. So I'm glad to see that though he is quite literally just passing by in a fandom, he's still being respectful to how the community feels about the situation, which is really good. And I appreciate that a lot, actually. Next up on the pyramid is David Johnson. For a lot of the same reasons I said earlier, but it bears repeating, that I do think that clearly this man, in the way he spoke about how he feels about being, you know, Prince T'Challa and taking over the mantle of Black Panther, this man is clearly really wanting to be respectful of Chadwick Boseman's legacy. And I believe that he will, to the best of his ability with, you know, with what he's given and like what, you know, the director instructs him on, he's going to be doing his best, his absolute best with this. And you can really tell that he thinks it's very important. So that's good. I hope that, you know, the movie is reflective of that. I mean, there's only so much you can do as an actor when, you know, the director is, you know, telling you what to do, and the script, you didn't get to write it and stuff like that. So, and you know, when you're an actor, there's so many things that you are not in control of. So I hope that the rest of the cast and crew also shares the same reverence for the mantle as he clearly does. And I hope he continues to. Next up on the pyramid is Guillermo del Toro. Literally 100% because of what he said at San Diego Comic-Con about how art is more important than AI could ever be, and it's more expensive, and he doesn't even care to use it because the art is more important than the efficiency, I guess. And that is a stance I swear to God, I wish the world would take that stance. Holy shit, I wish the world would take that stance. And then finally, our top spot on the pyramid this week is New York's Mayor Zoran Mamdani. Genuinely, and I am treading lightly in my verbiage, it is because of what he said about a ruler of a place in the Middle East. You know the one. And if you don't, not hard to figure it out. He called for the arrest of said man. And, you know, of course, in the press conference where he said that, a woman reporter asked him, like, well, you say you're going to do this, but the current leader of the US said he wasn't going to. And he basically, and I'm paraphrasing this part, but he basically said, just because he's going to protect someone so terrible doesn't mean I will. Sort of something to that effect of like, yeah, because he likes the guy, that doesn't mean that he shouldn't be detained. You know what I mean? So Mamdani's on top of the pyramid because he's saying something that literally no other politician in the United States is saying, and it's what everyone everywhere should be saying, to be quite frank, considering all of the turmoil and shit that has been going on for years. And in terms of Palestinians, it's been going on for hundreds of years. So that's why Zoran Mamdani is on top of the pyramid this week, simply put. That concludes our pyramid. I'd like to address one other thing. Hopefully, due to how the new filming schedule works, where I film and then my editor has a full week to work on editing, you know, whenever his schedule allows. Hopefully that means that my role, I've been cast in a play, very excited about it, but hopefully that means that theater will not actually interfere with Weekly Hyperfixations. Again, I say that with the addendum that during the first week of the show, Tech Week, which if you're not familiar with theater, basically you have to be there every single day that week until very late at night, going through the entire show, and then performances are usually at the end of that same week. That's the only week that could interfere with the schedule, and of course, if that happens, I should be able to give y'all ample warning. So, with that said, thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all had a good time. I know I did. Thank you again for, you know, being so understanding with the schedule changes and things like that. We're working on getting it back to a way more consistent product. So yeah, thank you all again. I hope y'all have a good rest of your week, and I hope you have a good week next week. And now with the new schedule, I'll see you again, same time, same place, 2 weeks from now. So Have a good time until then. Remember to hydrate and take care of yourself. And I'll see y'all then.